talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome into a bonus episode of View from the West podcast. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined once again, as always, by Mitch Stormer. Mitch, we've wrapped up the high school football season. We had a great Friday of state championship high school football. We're not quite to our awards episode just yet, but we had a topic we had to squeeze into an extra episode here. So here we are, a bonus episode, joined today by Vincent Johnson, the photojournalist, the man behind Illustrious, the best high school basketball gyms in the state of Illinois. So Vincent, thanks for jumping on here with Mitch and myself. It's great to have you on. I can't wait to pick your brain, maybe a little bit about football, but a lot about high school basketball.
No, not a problem. And, you know, it's funny when you were doing your intro there and you said Friday night of football, I was like, what the hell is he talking about? I'm like, we had a Tuesday and Wednesday. At least I had a Tuesday and Wednesday of football. I don't know about you, but yeah, my football went a little bit longer than normal.
Yeah, it went a little bit past normal as well, a little bit past Illinois State, you might say. So there's a
little bit.
Yeah.
Well played.
So Mitch, I want to bring you in because you got your copy of Illustrious, the book we're going to talk about here from Vincent Johnson. You have it sitting right there next to you, of course. I got my copy right next to me as well. But Mitch, you were kind of, as soon as you opened the book and started reading through it, I got my copy a month or so ago and was really excited. You got your copy when we were at the state championship games.
Hand delivered.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And Mitch, I think as soon as you saw the book, you came to me and said, we got to get Vincent on the show. So, you know, just tell me about your thoughts, your impressions on the book here, Mitch, and then we'll, hand it over to Vincent to talk about it.
I mean, it's the exact type of thing that I love to have around the house. I mean, it's the type of book that you can just set on a coffee table or an end table, whatever you got. You can pick it up at any point in time and dig through any one of the, what is it, Vincent, 267, 66 pages or so. You can pick any one of them.
264, 120 gyms, or no, 120 high schools, 126 different gyms.
Okay, so in any one of those pages, any one of those 126 gyms, you can look at some unbelievable photography. You can get a lot of history, and again, it's my type of book, really, because I don't want to read too much. I want to see the pictures. So it's a fabulous book. It would make a great Christmas gift this time of year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We of course are a football podcast, and Vincent, we met you through conversations about football. So before we get into the book and all the details and everything, I want to pick your brain a little bit about high school football and talk about your state championship adventures this week. And obviously you, like a lot of other media members, had a little bit of a shuffling around. We were there Friday and we talked to you during the small school games, and then 5A through 8A got a little more, a little more interesting, a little more weather. You still saw weather when you were in Northern Illinois, but overall, take me through kind of the journey of your state championship adventures here.
I mean, I think everybody knows the journey, at least from the weather side of the standpoint, what happened at ISU. I will say, it seems somebody who's been doing this for 35 years, covering high school sports. I've noticed over the years that there's one thing that is always true every season, whether it's football, basketball, softball, is somebody's going to not be happy with the decision the IHSA made, or somebody's going to be happy. It doesn't matter. Whichever way they go, if they would have kept the games going, everybody would have been this many people yelling at them. If they would have stopped it, it would have been this many. I think the IHSA got a little bit of a blessing because ISU was the one that actually closed down the campus, so it wasn't actually the IHSA's choice. But still, they... I think one of the most outlandish things to just nail that point home is I saw somebody online recommend that the IHSA should build their own dome stadium and they could make a lot of money from hosting things there. And I was just like, oh, this has really gone off the rails. The funny thing is with the book, a lot of people think that like I'm more of a high school basketball guy than I am a high school football guy. But, I started off my photography career while I was a sophomore in high school at Joliet Catholic when we were still an all boys school, and seeing a state championship my junior year, and witnessing the first game of my senior year. I love telling this story. There's a picture of it in the book, actually, because my senior year I stopped taking photos. I said, I told the counselors, I'm like, hey, I actually want to be in some of the photos as opposed to just taking pictures of all the events. And so the first game of our senior year, we went up to Mount Carmel at Gately Stadium there on the south side of Chicago. It was Joliet Catholic, who was the 4A state champs in 90, and Mount Carmel, who was the 5A state champs in 90, playing in week 1 of the 91 season. And that game went into double overtime. And the fun part is we were actually, Joliet Catholic was down. We won that game. But I think the score was like 24-6 with like 4 minutes left or something like that, or 5 minutes left. And we came back, tied it up. But here's the lineup for that game. And this is part of the reason why, this solidified me becoming a high school football fan. In the Joliet Catholic backfield was this running back named Mike Allstott. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Mike.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. He could break a tackle every now and again. And then on the defensive end for Mount Carmel was this other guy named Simeon Rice. Don't know if anybody ever heard of him. They had a junior tight end named Matt Cushing. Now, that might be a little more of a reach for some of you, but Matt played a few years for the Giants in the NFL. And then, they just had this kid sitting on the bench as a sophomore named Donovan McNabb. So, no big deal. Just, for future NFL players, just, on a Friday night, south side of Chicago, nothing to see here. Double overtime, amazing game.
And somewhere Donovan McNabb is saying, I know Vincent Johnson, the guy who made that book about the high school gyms.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure McNabb's saying that, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so, I just kind of want to follow up, segue with that is, take me through what do you really enjoy? We've talked about how every year whatever you're doing on that Friday, you're going to be there walking the sidelines covering IHSA state championships. Doesn't matter the teams, doesn't matter where they're from, what they're doing. What do you love about it? About those games, about any high school football atmosphere?
I mean, well, and it just goes in high school sports in general. I mean, it has always been that last bastion of town pride or school pride. You get a feel for it. The kids are out there. There's so many kids that are on that team that are they're never going to go D1. They're probably not even going to go D. If they play in an NAIA college or a junior college, maybe that's it. But this is their one shot. And, as somebody who I just turned 52, and, I have friends, and we still talk about high school games. I know you probably have friends that still talk about high school games. One of the things I said about when I was doing the book with the basketball court is, with basketball courts, is there are few people in this entire country that have not stepped into a high school basketball gym in their life. There are plenty of people who haven't gone to an NFL or a college game, basketball, football, whatever it might be. Everybody at some point has been into a high school gym, whether or not it's that pancake breakfast for fundraiser. Maybe you were just, in the band club and they had the stage built in your gym. So that's why you're in there. You definitely had PE class. So it's, with the exception of a couple of homeschooled kids in the middle of Idaho, we've all been in a high school gym. And so it's relatable on so many different levels. We've all been to a high school game for the most part. So I think that's what really sets it apart. You just get to see kids that are, out there. There's a difference in the tears on a sideline after a loss of a state championship or even a semifinal game than there is at the college or the pro level. I mean, I don't know if you see anybody tearing up after they lose a semifinal championship game in college or pro. You see people start to tear up when they're losing a quarterfinal or second round game, especially if they thought they were going to go somewhere. Or it was a last minute miracle thing. So, I mean, that's just there's a love of the game there. And like I said, whether it's a public school or a private school, it's a community, and these are your friends, these are your neighbors, these are your family, and 20 years from now, it's still going to be that way.
Mitch, what do you got?
First, I was going to ask you, am I right on track when I say that you used to run IHSFW.com?
Yes, you would be right on track. So that's what I was going to say too. The other thing is everybody thinks basketball is my main one. It was always high school football. I don't think I shot high school basketball on a regular until like 2012, maybe 2010 at the earliest. I mean, I might have shown up at a game here and there just for a little practice, but it was nothing that I really ever sought out. You went to the games when you were in high school, but that was, like I said, I went to an all boys school, so that was more to meet the girls from the all girls school than it was to actually watch the basketball. So yeah, no, it's my license plates still say that. So if you ever see the IHSFW1 license plates in front of you while you're on the highway, that's me.
There you go. So we're talking to Vincent Johnson, a regular contributor to the Chicago Tribune and the Daily Southtown, also the photojournalist behind Illustrious, the best high school basketball gyms in Illinois. So, take me through, where did this idea come from? You talked about shooting a lot of high school football. Obviously, you've been around a lot of high school athletics. Where'd this start?
Well, it started on the football field, believe it or not. And so like I said, I went to Joliet Catholic. They play their home games currently at Joliet Memorial Stadium, which is this beautiful 10,000 foot. I don't know. Some people might not think it's beautiful. It's been built in 51, but it's this giant cement stadium that almost looks like something out of Friday Night Lights. Like if you were down in Permian or Odessa in Texas, that's what you would expect to see, is, this giant cement, grandstands on each side. And it was really a great facility to see high school sports. It gave it more of a kind of pro feeling to it, or a college feeling to it. And so back when I was running the website, I decided I was going to start, doing this little story on like some of the coolest football stadiums in the state. And, there's not a lot of them. Most of them are pretty, even if they got a, nice, Jumbotron, which a lot of them have now. There's only a few that really stand out without that kind of like technology aspect. Joliet Memorial was one of them. Lane Tech in Chicago has a great one. Peoria Public Schools Municipal Stadium that they have is just a cool looking old barn, basically over the grandstands, which is neat. Rock Island has a great one. And there's a few other, but that list goes down pretty quick. Oak Park River Forest actually has a really cool brick, kind of grandstand that's a very neat looking field. And so to segue into what did it is I was covering a girls basketball game on a Saturday afternoon for the Oakleys, which is the local Oak Park newspaper that's part of the Pioneer Press / now it's under the Chicago Tribune umbrella. And I walked into Oak Park River Forest's field house, and you could see it in the book. It's in there, but it's probably the biggest gym in the state lengthwise. I think it's like 260, 270 meters long. The basketball court takes up like this tiny edge at the end or the beginning of the gym, depending on which way you're coming in, but it was built in 1928. It's just this cavernous place that's almost got a full indoor track and tennis courts and everything like that. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'd already known about their football field. So I was like, that'd be neat is if somebody did like that idea that I'm doing for the fields, but they did it with high school basketball courts. And so, like I said, that was I think it was January 7th of 2012. And so I kind of put a little pin in that idea and forgot about it for the most part. And then the pandemic happened and we all missed high school sports. We all kind of, I don't know you guys how much you were doing in the basketball season, but I totally remember where I was the night that I heard, I was at a basketball game when we got the word like, hey, the word first was like, you're only going to have like a limited number of fans. It was like 2 people per athlete and then like X number of coaches. And then the cool thing was the IHSA had said media would be allowed because the fans needed some way to see or read about the games. So I thought that was one of those nice little points where it actually showed like why media mattered. But yeah, I was at Bloom Township covering the super sectionals, or not super, no, sectional finals is what it would have been. And they canceled it. And then, so yeah, I came back from the pandemic, 2021 started, and I was at Brother Rice High School in Chicago covering a game. And I was like, and I knew it was one of the more, interesting gyms out there. And I'd taken some pictures of it before, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to photograph the hell out of this gym tonight. Like, I'm documenting the gym. Don't tell my editors this. So Bill, if you're watching, you didn't hear this. I never said this. But yeah, so I really was taking like a lot of wide shots, which I normally don't do too many of, and detailed shots of like little interesting things. And that's when I kind of started tweeting out about it and making a little like back page on like my personal website about it. And then a week later, I ended up going to Waukegan, and then I heard that Gates Gymnasium at New Trier was getting torn down, and their last game was like December 16th or something like that. So I drove up there to see a game there and take it all in. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of it. And, like I thought about like, it'd be cool if we could do a book about this. But, my main idea was like, I'm just going to make a website and see what people say and maybe see some cool gyms. And then 4 years later, and who knows how many thousands of miles, we have the book.
Awesome. Well, like you said earlier, 126 gyms in total, I think you said.
Yes.
Starting in kind of our coverage area, you covered the Western Big Six quite a bit, certainly on the cover alone.
I mean, it's hard
with
not
Moline,
Yeah.
right? With Moline and Quincy and Rock Island and Sterling and so forth. So what's let me ask you about shooting the Western Big Six gyms. What do you like? What do you see out there?
I mean, I think one of the factors in a great gym is that it's a little bit older. And what makes it cool when it's a little older is it has some intricacies because of architectural designs. Like there were certain things that, like if you go to Ottawa or Taylorville or Waukegan, which I'm going to be at on Saturday, if anybody's in the Waukegan area wants to stop out and see a good game and buy a book, they have these gyms where you have like a roof that comes over the grandstands or the spectators area, and then you have this elevated roof that's up here that's actually over the court. And that a lot of those older gyms had to do with the strength of the metal and just the design that they could put to keep a roof over a large space like that. And so you look at Sterling, which is this old field house. You look at Rock Island, which is, it's a field house, but it's basically an arena, built in 1928. I think Quincy's probably one of the newer ones in there. Rock Island's in there. It's one of the schools that is in there twice. So, but their old gym, it's got that weird thing where you got to have that raised balcony because it kind of helps with support of the wall. And then you've got the balcony above the baseline, which is just an odd thing to have. But there's a couple of gyms that have it, and it's what makes them interesting. I think that's I'm trying to think, what else am I missing from the Big Six? Oh, another one.
United Township.
United Town, yeah, just gonna say East Moline. And that's one of those that, when you're in a conference like the Western Big Six that has so many great gyms, and then, just Quincy's gym is cool because, essentially Quincy's gym could have been in the section of the book that's called The Bench, which is about cool gyms, but they're kind of like, they're not starters in a way. But it's what they did to it. It's a 2-tier gym. It's got that upper deck that's permanent. It's got the lower deck, but they got a fanometer. They've got the giant Jumbotron. They've got all the paint and the decorations, and they even got like these square, almost like soundproofing tiles. And then, one of the criteria for the book was the gym has to look good empty. It doesn't matter how many titles you've won. It doesn't matter who played there, how many fans you bring in a regular. I think Quincy might have been the only one that I kind of flubbed that one with a little bit because, the Blue Devil coming out with like fire, a torch, like running around. That's just insane. The NBA can't even compete with Quincy's opening act. It's so they got a little higher in my personal rankings because of that. But I think they still would have made it in just kind of like, just because of the lore that goes on with that place. Same thing with like Pontiac. There's, I often joke to Bradley Bourbonnet's, detriment that like it was between them and Kankakee which one was going to make the book, and it just happened to be like who had the schedule on a night that I was open and I could drive down to the, the Tri-Cities there, and it just happened to be Kankakee. And then I ended up in Bradley recently, and I'm like, I don't know, I might like Bradley's gym a little better than Kankakee's. So, but they're at that level where it's, you know what I'm going to do now, don't you? It's kind of like 6-7. Which one is it? Is it 6 or is it? I'm
Mitch,
sorry.
he's so
cut
hip.
me out right now.
He's so cool.
Yeah, he's into it.
This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages,
Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
At Modern Woodmen of America, service is about more than our members. It's about our community, too. We share values that include personal financial security and helping friends and neighbors in need. We're your partner helping you protect your future, and together we're making an impact here in our local communities. I'm Nate Neighbor. Find me on the Modern Woodmen of America website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
We'll get into favorites in a little bit, but one of like the key attributes of a great gym to me, and you focused on this a lot where you saw it, was an actual still being utilized like ticket window. That to me is so cool.
And I'll say it before you say it, Vincent. The granddaddy of them all is in Ottawa High School.
Oh, the ticket window?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there's some competition there.
It's a cool one, but I mean, I think Champaign Central might have a word. Although if you look in the book, Champaign Central's, I think I put the picture in there. They have like a laundry basket and it's like some other like gym material. So they don't use them anymore. Most of them.
Yeah.
Ottawa's doesn't get used.
No.
Flora's got a cool little one, but they don't use it. So there's, but yeah.
We got to get back to that.
Highland's got a newer, this is what blows my mind. Highland was built in 73 and they have a ticket window built into the outside. I'm like, for a building that was, that new, like it's an older thing. Like Joliet Central, which is built in like the 30s, has one. And so, yeah, the older 30s and 40s, I expect that. But like a gym in the 70s having a ticket window? Yeah. No, the one thing that I used to joke about, and it's kind of true to an extent, is the one thing that makes a gym, that I think kind of really elevates and, makes you look at it and kind of consider it is a balcony. And the balcony to me is quintessential of a great gym because it says this place is made for spectating and spectating at a level where we need more room than normal. And I think that's kind of what a balcony is. That's why those two-tier gyms like Proviso West and Quincy, and even Rock Falls. Rock Falls was close to making the book too because they have a older two-tier gym. I know, speaking of Kankakee and Bradley having the two-tier gyms, Rockford Boylan's in. They got a two-tier gym that's a little bit older, but Rockford East was almost in because it had something similar. And it was just sometimes when you get that close to the same look, it's like, okay, who's open this night? Who's got a home game?
All right. So you're talking about balconies, and that's a perfect segue for tell me about your thoughts on Ottawa Marquette, the Crusaders at Marquette Academy. I mean, I grew up, that's my home gym. I've been going to high school basketball games since I can't even remember. My whole life I've been going to games there. And the older I got, I always kind of realized, like, there's not a gym I've ever been to that's like this gym. Take me through. I love that place, man. I love Bader Gymnasium.
You saw what I wrote about it. I call it the Mad Hatter's. Like, yeah, it's. Let's put it this way. I've only been there once.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have photos of it, I don't think I would be kind of like gaslighting myself about what I actually saw. Because I do not believe that that's actually what that place looks like. It's just so. It's like there was a football stadium there, and then they decided to just build a basketball court over the top of it because it's got like this. It looks like something out of a college football stadium. They're grandstands, and it's just so bizarre but cool. And yeah, and I will say the other reason so I've been there once. I got to get back because, like I said, I still don't believe it, even though I have the photos to prove that's what it looks like. And I think part of that had to do with I got the meat sweats when I was there because when I showed up, I was hungry. I got some sausage pizza before it was a Christmas tournament, shot a little end of one game, went back after before Marquette started playing their game, and somebody introduced me to the sloppy nachos, which I don't know if you've had the sloppy nachos or if that was a thing when you were there, but they are, you get a thing of nachos, except it's like sloppy joes dumped on top of it. So I had a lot of meat. I was fuller than I was after Thanksgiving dinner leaving that place, and the drive back east on I-80 was kind of a hallucination for me. The checkered board free throw lane didn't help. It was like a wild and crazy trip going to that place.
The checkerboard lane is a new addition, and from what I've been told, that was the head coach's idea, and he wanted to be like the Boise State of the local high school. He wanted something that stands out, that's completely different. And apparently,
yeah.
Well, but I will say, I've heard, and I only wish I could see the designs, I've heard there were bigger plans that the school said, no, we can't do that, we can't do that. He had bigger ideas than just that. But that was
for the rest of the gym, or was this just for the free throw?
Court. For the court, he had a bigger court design, but that was what stuck, was the checkerboard lane.
He's going to have one of those like LED floors like the NBA has now, and it's just psychedelic Paisley spinning everywhere, and 4-year-olds up in the bleachers are getting sick and thrown up everywhere. It probably would have. Yeah.
So, to wrap up about that balcony, one of the best high school basketball games I ever saw there. My brother was a senior in high school, and they had a good team that year. They were playing Serena, a rival from 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
Serena was, I think, 1 loss on the year or undefeated at the time, had a fantastic team. And Marquette ended up beating them on a coast-to-coast buzzer beater layup. The place goes crazy. And we have home video that I was shooting on my parents' old video camera at the time. Nice. And in the middle of the celebration, you see a lone random shoe get thrown out of the balcony onto the court. Some kid was so excited he threw his shoe down onto the floor. So from that top balcony that you're talking about.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah. So getting back to the Western Big Six, we didn't mention Rock Island Alleman has a cool gym. Don Morris Gymnasium. Really small gym, but kind of a similar, without the balcony, similar feel to Marquette, I always felt like.
They do have a balcony. They're 2-tiered, so technically,
that's right.
Yeah, and it's permanent seating up there, so those benches are bolted to the ground, which, I love. And I will say this, Alleman has probably the best lights in the entire state. I think it helps that their ceiling is so low, and they got new LEDs and that like blonde white floor that they have. You could shoot with like the oldest digital camera they ever made, and you're still going to get good sports photos there because that place it's almost too bright. But chef's kiss to the lighting department at.
And I really I don't want to go without mentioning, I love shooting high school basketball at the girls' gym at Rock Island. That place that's a really cool gym. I remember seeing a regional championship game there between Galesburg and Rock Island, and when that place is full and they had a band up in the one end of the balcony, like it's a really cool, loud experience, and it just feels old school because it is an old school, type of look and feel to it. Speaking of Galesburg, that's a gym that didn't make your list, and it's one of those ones that I don't know would shoot great empty.
Yeah.
But there's such history behind Galesburg basketball that on a random Friday you can roll in there and you're going to have a crowd. That place loves basketball in Galesburg. I know there's a lot of communities like that, but that's one in the Big Six that's really good, but probably doesn't, to your point, shoot well empty necessarily.
And yeah, empty. I mean, like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, just about every gym looks better full. I will say there is one like I hate saying this, but Brown County, their gym looks really good empty.
Okay.
You know, and that's not an insult on Brown County. Like, it's just a cool, their paint scheme. Like, you don't see it if people are standing there. But yeah, I mean, like, Galesburg was one of them. It's, I think it might have been on the maybe list when I still had about like 300 schools in, but you start whittling them down. One of the things I tell people is like, oh, but such and such is our gym is great. I'm like, listen, I made this book for a reason. Here's the good book, Illustrious. Take it home and read it.
Yeah.
Read Finch, chapter 13, page 20. Yeah. Like, you're going to see that there's, all the gyms that you thought were great is because you've only made it out to maybe a dozen or 20 gyms out of the 850. And once you start getting out there, it's like, I thought I was only going to be published, doing a book. I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll do like 50 gyms. And then when I had an initial list, it was like 250. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to whittle this down to like under 200. I'm like, so, and then we can't even start talking about like the old gyms. Like, you've got stuff like Mount Carmel's alumni gym, which is used just for wrestling now. You've got Streeter's gym, which is basically PE and freshman volleyball is the only thing that goes on in there. The old Joliet Catholic gym, which had been abandoned for a while, and ironically was actually Plainfield High School for a while because of a tornado. So yeah, there's a great story there. But so yeah, if you start going there, I had a bunch of people who were telling me about Leaf River has a really cool old gym. And Leaf River hasn't been a school for ages. And same thing with like Reddick, which is near Kankakee. And the list goes on, the number of old high schools that still have, or that were at one point a high school and their gym is still around. And it's interesting. Maybe that's the next book is, the old gyms that are still sitting there, that are a little more historic. But yeah.
So, Vincent, we talked about, kind of how structurally you can tell if a gym is going to, kind of fit what you're looking for. What about aesthetically, when you get inside from a court design perspective, from a colors perspective, what makes a good gym from that perspective?
It's funny because I've definitely seen some courts that are too busy. I love Lewiston.
I swear to you, I am on that page right now.
That's what I was going to mention.
I brought that up.
That is about as busy a court as you could have, and they did a good job, but I think it is one more feather in the cap from being just too much. Marquette, their free throw line. I think, maybe if coach had gotten his way, it probably would have been a little like, vomit inducing, paint scheme. It varies. I know Peoria just had, which Peoria gym just got the new one? Manual, maybe? And they have the skyline of Peoria on the thing.
I can't remember. I shared it with you because I saw it and thought of you, but yeah.
Okay, good. We both have Alzheimer's, so that's okay. But like, so De La Salle in Chicago, they have the Chicago skyline with the Ferris wheel and everything going along one side of their, and so like, that's one of them. Like, if I was doing something on just courts, like, De La Salle makes it. I think the thing with courts now too is you're in one of two camps with courts, and I kind of feel like this is the same way with gyms. There's some holdovers that haven't really had much design since like the 1980s, 1990s. And then you've got the vintage ones that still have that old school charm to them. Where it's like their logo is just like a block C in the center court. And, maybe like the mascot from the 50s is like somewhere down around where the 3-point line is. And then you have the new ones where, you look at like the St. Lawrence's where they have like this beautiful, like dark black wood almost, or you get De La Salle where they've got the skyline and Peoria with the skyline. And I think with it's kind of like some of the jerseys that are out there, where they can do so much now because it's not sewn on numbers as much as it is like a paint scheme, on some sort of like polyester. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some gyms that are out there that I think improve with the court, but I can't think of any one gym in particular that the court was like, oh yeah, that's the thing that like won me over on this gym.
My favorite chapters to kind of flip through is the Chicago Public League chapter, where they're older gyms. There's a lot of just vanity when you look through it. What do you like about the gyms that you covered in the book from the Chicago Public League?
And I think this goes hand in foot with what I liked about some of the smaller schools in, rural parts of the state is when you run out of money and enrollment doesn't increase, you don't have the funds to go in and build a new gym. And if you're lucky, you have the funds to just maintain your gym and you get an athletic department that does their best to do that. But, when you look at the Sens and Schurz, DeSalvo and Steinmetz, like they still look, Steinmetz still has like the Swedish bars and like these chains that hang from the roof with ropes that look like it's more something out of Game of Thrones torture room than it does an actual basketball court. And it's just because nobody had the money, like no athletic department's like, oh, we got all this cash, let's go ahead and redo this and put in a Jumbotron and take out all these old like wooden folding chair seats. And so I think, that's what makes it. It's, you didn't have that influx, good or bad. There's some schools, like, I don't know if Flora would ever want to get rid of Conley, court or gym, because it's just a good looking old gym. But, New Trier got rid of Gates, and Gates was probably one of my favorite, was definitely up in that top 20 for gyms that were around. I know Mount Vernon people would talk days about how cool Mount Vernon's old gym was. And then you've got Old Centralia, which is in the book. And, just them and Paris both, enrollment started going up. They had that money. They moved outside of town, built a new campus, and I understand that too. Like if you're, it's somebody who sees schools in the city that are landlocked and they don't, so many Chicago public schools don't have a football field, don't have a baseball field. It's just a building, and the gym is the only thing they have. And so that's probably one of the things that helps kept some of these old gyms around, is like you're not building a new school anywhere else in the city. Like, so you got to stick with the building you have. And, but other towns like Paris, I know Marion, I heard some good things about their old gym. I heard Quincy's old gym too. They called it the Langham Dungeon after the coach that was there. And I heard it's still around, but it's like a grade school now. But a lot of people said that was a great gym. So that's another one that could have been included in Elgin High School's got a great gym. That's an old warehouse looking type thing with an L-shaped upper balcony that goes around it. And, it was one of those that if I could have gotten there, I probably would have put that in the book too. But like I said, there's so many of those old gyms you could just keep in there, put in there.
Yeah, the one that I like the most, and I thought you did a great job of getting this shot, is Austin College and Career Academy.
Oh yeah.
With the just terrific windows, and then those chairs, just look like a relic of an old auditorium or something. No. So I really like that.
Did you read? Because I'm pretty sure I put it in there. What's on the bottom of those chairs? So they have a metal wiring.
I can tell you for sure I haven't read this page.
No, that's fine. Look at the pictures. That's what I do best. I can write, as all the journalists that I know now are like, wait, you can write? And I'm like, yes, I can write. But yeah, photos are my strong suit. So they have hat racks for like your top hats and your fedoras.
Oh, wow.
So that's what that is.
Awesome.
That's literally when you'd come in, you watch the game, you put your hat underneath the seat.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Greg, the only thing I want to add before I go to you is you talked Steinmetz, Vincent.
Yeah.
Your notable people there, Hugh Hefner. So great job on putting that one in the book.
He was a player. Also, I for the Austin thing and the chair thing, I have to shout out to Aaron Britton of Nesto Hoops, because he, I had looked at pictures of Austin and I was gonna go there, but when he had mentioned something about that to me, like through text or wherever, and he's like, yeah, look for the top hat racks on the bottom of the chairs. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's so cool.
And I don't know if I realized what the hell those were, if it's not for him. So thank you for that one.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think to me, and you kind of touched on it a little bit there, what stands out when I look through the book and as we have this conversation is that regardless of what surrounds a basketball court, right? They're all for the same, same distance, same measurement, whatever structure surrounds the basketball court. It's the people, the community that fill it every Friday, every Tuesday, every whatever, that really make it feel like something, because that's back to your point about everybody thinks that that gym they go to all the time is one of the top 100 because
Yeah.
that's what they're so familiar with. That's where they go to see that great game and to see that
And they've
great
got
athlete.
memories of great games going in their head and like,
Yeah.
moments. What makes it even more special for them. Yeah.
It's like Hoosiers, right? When they say, when they start measuring everything
Measuring
in
the
Hinkle
10 yeah.
Fieldhouse, it's
So
all the
I will
same
say,
Yeah.
there are a few gyms where, and this is the one thing I love about high school gyms, like unlike the NBA for sure, which is like, it's one of the great things why I think people love going to Major League Baseball stadiums because they're one of the few fields that dictate the game because of how the stadium is designed. And high school basketball, I think, is the other thing. You don't see too many I don't know any college basketball courts where the actual building could dictate what you do, but there's some roofs. There's some structures that have things that are hanging around them. If you look at Lindblom, like you're not taking a corner 3-pointer at Lindblom because you will smack your hands right into the running track that's only 7 feet above, the ground. Like, yeah, it's padded for a reason because, I'm sure more than one person like cracked a knuckle or broke a finger. You have the wall at Marshall, which is another Chicago public league school where on one side they have this baseline that extends for like 20 extra feet. And then the other one, you literally get like a 1.5 feet from when the baseline ends until you run into a brick wall. But that's just for like 3/4 of the baseline. The other side is like, you could go fine, but like if you're driving to the left, you're going to hit a wall. If you're driving to the right, you can skirt off and miss it. So there's definitely some gyms where, there's a little bit of things that come into play. Brussels, where I was Monday night, one of my favorite gyms in the state.
Yeah.
They've got the restraining line, and I've got video of it that I got to post up. But when you have to inbound from the team bench side, you inbound from in court, and you just stand behind the restraining line because you'd have to be standing on the bench if you were going to like inbound. So yeah, it's a pretty neat thing to see a game played there.
Yeah. In your travels, throughout covering different high school gyms, did you pride yourself on being like, someone who knew architecture, who studied architecture, or did you kind of learn along the way here?
Oh wait, did you think I know architecture? No, I know a little bit. I've rehabbed a few houses. I'm a little bit of an architectural geek. Living in Chicago, you kind of accidentally learn about architecture all the time. So yeah, it definitely helped. But there's some like clerestory windows. I had no idea what those were.
What are they? I don't know.
A clerestory set of windows are the windows that are like up higher in the building, almost like you'd see in a church, or like an upper round of windows towards the edge of the roof.
Sure.
So, not quite a skylight because they're usually, horizontal. They vertical. They go up and down and not kind of like a traditional skylight. The whole section about glued structural laminated timber. I called them curved wooden beams. So, and then I found a guy who his dad ran that company that made that product back in the 60s, and he had done his master's thesis in architecture on that type of thing. And he's like, yeah, here's the info you're looking for. Because on a blog post, I said, hey, if there's an actual technical name for this, I'd love to know it. And he's like, yeah, here's this. And then the other one with like the honeycomb ceiling or net gym ceilings, I call. Those are the lamella roofs. And, it's really interesting how they're made. You make them on the ground, you keep pushing them together. And then each time you put another one up, like the roof goes, so it'll be like flat and then you just keep going. And then the arch keeps getting bigger as you go up. And then you build the walls on each end of the thing and just push it up as you do. And so that's like Harrisburg and Macomb and Cobden's old gym. They have that lamella roof, and that's how they were built, on the ground and then raised.
I can say I saw one game in Cobden High School about 20 years ago. Before that, because that gym is no more, right?
That gym got torn down. I want to say the summer of 23. I was one of the last people in there to photograph it. I walked in through all the don't enter here things. Like they knew I was there. I didn't like trespass, but they're here you go in. It's empty. It's not going to fall down. You'll be fine. We just, but
amazing.
So yeah, you saw a game about 20 years ago there, and
I did. So I covered local high school sports when I was at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. So we covered a lot of that, and I saw a lot of Ralph Legeman gyms.
Yes.
And I didn't know until I read your book about. I knew when I'd go around my coverage, I thought, all these gyms, a lot of them look very similar. And it was a gym style that I'd never really seen on the northern half of the state, you know?
Nope.
So tell me about, what you learned about that and kind of why they're so prominent, down in that area. Because there's a lot of them right in that collection of, area.
Yeah. So there's, it's one of the things, and I hate saying this to people who love Jacksonville High School's bowl, because the bowl, the JHS Bowl, is one of the great gyms in the state. And I think a lot of that has to do with kind of like Quincy. It's similar to others, but what they've done to it, the legacy, the kind of, just the way they still have the glass walls. So when you drive up at night, you'll see the shadows of people walking across the concourse while you're in the parking lot outside the gym, which is just really cool. So like some of the other ones like Pinckneyville and Heron don't have that. So that's why I think Jacksonville's above there. But, people always think, oh, yeah, it's the best gym in the state. I'm like, it's really hard for me to say that when there's 11 other gyms just in Illinois alone that look like it. And there's about 26 between Indiana, Missouri, and Illinois that all look like that. And so Ralph Legeman was an architect in Indiana, Evansville, Indiana. And he came up with this idea on how to build a gym. And it was essentially a cost-effective, cost-saving measure, because what you do is you dig down into the ground, and that's where you get the bowl from, and then you use cement to kind of make your seating arrangements, and then when you build the roof, the majority of everything you're done is below grade, and here's this small little wall, so you don't have a wall that's like supporting all the weight of the wall and the weight of the roof. So it's just this little bit of wall that you need on the side to kind of hold up the roof, as opposed to this giant wall where you start having problems, depending on how wide it is. So you get this nice wide space, you get a roof that could stay semi-low and then work. And then you use the dirt from the ground, and the cement bleachers is basically the retaining walls for the gym. And so it was, it got used in a lot of the smaller schools that were definitely a little more budget friendly. It was mainly, they started to get built after World War II. So, you got a lot of people in a time crunch, but they, it's quick to build and, easy to do. And so Heron was actually the first one built like that anywhere.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And each one of them, they usually have that quintessential tunnel that comes out. Heron's comes out from the corner of a baseline. I know Jacksonville has one on each baseline in the middle, like right behind the goal. El Dorado has one that comes in at half court from one side underneath their press box. So yeah, there's a little bit of a different. I'm trying to remember if Pinckney, I think, just has one side that comes out. But, and then each one's a little bit different. Like Pinckneyville has like a metal rail that goes around one side of the court, and then they have the beautiful wooden fold-down stadium seating that looks like it's original. But, the great thing about those gyms is everybody enters their seat from the top down. So nobody's walking in front of you for the most part. You don't have that constant stream of people going by you like you do in other gyms where they're all front row loaded.
Mm-hmm.
What's that football stadium that's built that way in Illinois?
Rock Island has one that's like that. You're talking about Mount Carmel's the Pit? Mount Carmel downstate Mount Carmel.
Yeah, downstate Mount Carmel.
What am I thinking of?
Well, I know the downstate Mount Carmel has the has the big hill on where they
get the hill, and then one side's all stands.
I thought there was one that it looked like you had to walk down steps into getting into it.
I mean, that's definitely Rock Island.
Yeah, Rock Island has that.
Rock Island's a legit bowl.
It's not that one, but that's
well, it is. There's a cool one that's in Cincinnati, I believe. I forget what the name of that one is, but that's a really cool.
Is it the
Peru has a really interesting gym or a field too, but not quite the it's not a bowl. It's definitely down, so it's a bowl in that sense, but not like all the way around.
Yeah, you're thinking of Elder High School here in Cincinnati. It's a great place to watch a game.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the Three Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas. All with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
All right. The big question of the night, Vincent. I want to know your top three. If you can provide that. Your top three and why, then I'll give mine and Greg probably has some.
All right, no, I like
we'll
this. I don't get to hear too much. People who have looked at the book, I keep telling them hey, let me know what your favorite gym is that you found there. So without a doubt, number one with a gun, as they say, is West Frankfurt's Max Morris Arena. It's just that gym is just. I like old buildings. I like brown woodwork. I have an old house that we have, and it's got the original woodwork in it. And so to see when you walk down the aisle and it's all hardwood floor, when the steps going up to each bench or bleacher is hardwood floor, when the entire upper deck is all hardwood benches and hardwood floors, and you've got seating going all four ways around the gym on all four sides, upper and lower, and you got the stadium seats that fold down that are still the original wood. Max Morris is just beautiful. They got a nice little concession stand area. The stairs that lead up in the four corners of the gym are just neat to walk up. Overall, it's got just about everything you could ask for. If I was stuck at one gym shooting for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be upset about being in that one. And that kind of goes the same for, most of the top four. The next one would be Centralia's old gym. I mean, it's just walking in there and seeing it in shambles. And I was there lucky enough while the stained glass windows were still in place. That's a great gym. I wish I could have seen it in its heyday. It's got the upper balconies too that really makes it. Number three is, oh my God, I cannot remember number three now. I want to say, I know why. I was going to say something else, but I won't say what I was going to say. Moline, Wharton Fieldhouse, I think is, and I might actually be flipping 2 and 3 around right now, but I'm pretty sure Centralia is my 2, Morton's my 3, and then number 4 is Brussels. Brussels is just, I mean, that place is just so unique, and it's really cool.
So before we go any farther, I wanted to ask you about Brussels because I pride myself on kind of knowing my way around the state of Illinois. Like, there's not many high schools that you can run past me that I've never heard of them. I don't know their mascot. I don't know where they're located. But man, I'll be honest, when I found Brussels in the book and I was like, okay, I've heard of Hardin Calhoun. I don't know about this, and I don't know about this gym. And now I don't know about the travel it takes to get there. Tell me about this road trip and little more than a road trip, Mitch.
I've one nugget on that because this comes from our buddy Logan at WIC Football, who told me at state that I think Calhoun County is the only county in Illinois that does not have a railroad going through it. And that's part of what we're talking about here. It's the only county in Illinois that doesn't have a railroad going through it.
Yeah, that is a very good possibility. Now that I think about it, yeah, I don't. So Calhoun County, which has 2 high schools, Calhoun High School in Hardin and Brussels High School in Brussels. Calhoun is a peninsula. So it is, when you look at your map and you see where the Illinois and the Mississippi River meet, the bottom of that V there, right about where I'm smiling or my nose is, that's where Brussels is. And then Hardin is up here, and there's only one bridge that goes into Calhoun County, and that is from the Illinois side, so over the Illinois River into Hardin. There are, however, at least 3 ferries that run regular that go into there. So one of them from the Missouri side to the Illinois side, and then 2 from the Illinois side. One just above Hardin, and then one just south of Brussels. But Brussels is at the bottom of that thing. Somebody told me I was there on Monday. They said, yeah, we used to tell people that Brussels is the edge. It might not be the edge of the world, but you can see it from here. And I've, traveling across rural America for my Lost Americana project that I have, somebody gave me the wonderful term of, when they said, what are you doing in this town? It's like, this is the kind of place you got to be going to get to. And that's essentially what Brussels is. I don't end up there. You don't end up there accidentally unless you were just wildly intoxicated. And, it's so hard to get there without trying to get there. But yeah, it's a beautiful little kind of river valley, well, not river valley, but, kind of rolling hills. They used to have some apple orchards there. Brussels and Calhoun used to play for this thing called the Apple Crate Trophy. So, there's a great legacy there. And everybody was, I can't tell you how many thank yous I got for coming down there. And I didn't know this, but it seemed like they had been trying to get since they went co-op with Calhoun, it's been a little hard to get a game back at Brussels, and this was the first one that they'd had there since they co-op back in like 2020, 2021. So I got some thank yous where people, were like, we don't know if this game happens without you. And I'm like, so it touched my heart. But everybody down there, like, I can't say enough good things about them. I love that area. I was there the first time in the spring spring of 2022 when I went down there, and I could retire down there. Like, it's a beautiful part of the state. So even if you're not going for a basketball game, go down there just to visit.
There you go. Well, tell me about that gym, because the walls looked really unique, and take me through kind of what makes up the identity of that gym.
It's a limestone square building that was built in 1941, I want to say, as 40 or 41, as a work projects administration project. And it's just unlike anything else you've ever seen, because it's the limestone bricks are the exterior and the interior walls. Like, there's no plaster or drywall or anything like that. It's all exposed. They've got this beautiful kind of barn roof kind of ceiling with metal truss frames that hold it up. And apparently at one time it was a drop ceiling, but when they were redoing it, they decided to go ahead and leave it open after they took down to replace the drop ceiling. I'm like, no, this looks cool. And it's just a beautiful gym. When you see it, I remember looking at pictures, and I called Keisha Hartle, who is the AD, and I was like, hey, I found a couple of these pictures. There's not much about Brussels that I could find. And I did an extensive search for all the gyms when I couldn't find something. And I'm like, I saw this picture. Is it really a brick limestone gym that you guys play in? Like, with exposed, like, looks like a castle from the inside. And she's like, yeah, that's our gym. I'm like, can I come down and photograph it? And so, yeah, it's an amazing little place.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you got?
I guess I can run through mine real quick.
Yeah.
I'm dying to hear this.
All right. Now I'm going to pick. Okay. I'll first admit that I've told both of you this, that I have never been, in all of my years that I lived in the Quad Cities, I never went to Wharton. I've never been there. And that is such a shame. That's a shame on me. I will get there at one time. Picking through your book, a couple stand out. Number one is Chicago Military in Bronzeville. Love the story behind that. Love that it was a former National Guard, armory. Love the Harlem Globetrotters aspect of that. The pictures, looks like it's got great lighting in that gym too. Certainly a great archway.
So Mitch, don't
roof.
feel bad about Wharton, because I live in Bronzeville, and I've lived in Bronzeville for 20 years, and I found out about that gym 2 years ago. So, we're in the same boat when it comes to great gyms.
All right. Excellent. No, I really liked that one. My second one, because I think the windows, two things on this. One is the windows at Diet.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a great gym. And I love that you put that they are the 2025 boys 2A champs, but for notable people, you put Chief Keef. So that is a tremendous pull there, Vincent, and that gets bonus points for me. The third
Can
one.
I say something too?
Please.
That's on the south end of my neighborhood. So
Okay.
the military academy is on the north end, and Diet's on the south end. Yeah, like that's my neighborhood. We haven't even left my neighborhood yet. Let's get to the rest of the
all right.
state here, Mitch.
Okay, I'm gonna go to one that's not in your neighborhood, and I don't believe it's in the book. It is the high school at Kewanee Weathersfield. Have you ever been to that gym?
No, I have not.
Okay, a great local gym. Greg, you might be able to describe it a little bit better than me. It's kind of like the seating on the one sideline is kind of back a little bit underneath. It's not too tiered, but it's kind of like the seating sits back a little bit.
Now I'm getting nervous that I missed one.
Well, it's only reason for you to do another book, Vincent. So yeah, Kewanee Weathersfield Gym is a fantastic gym.
You almost said Keith Weatherfield's gym, didn't you?
So
Kewanee.
Weathersfield and Kewanee is really good, but Kewanee High School, home of the Boilermakers, if you ever make it to Kewanee,
Yeah,
I
have.
go to both places because
I've got a Boilers Maker T-shirt, and if we were at home, I'd go run and put it on right now. Yeah, but for football, that's the thing. I've been there for football. Like I've seen the Flying Geese play too in the state finals way back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know both teams very well, but yeah, when it came to basketball, I've heard Kewanee has an interesting gym too.
It's a cool gym. Yep, it's a cool gym. I'm trying to think of what I would compare it to, but it's probably a 40s, 50s gym. And it's got kind of some balconies that open up on each end, and then just it might have 2 layers. I think it has 2 levels. And it's a cool old school gym. They got a lot of artwork on the walls and different, painting, stuff for about the high school. So really cool stuff. But all right, so my 3, is that where we're at here? So
we know you're 1.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say Marquette. That's the homer pick in me. I would take that. I'll put that as my like asterisk, right? Like I can't pick that one because that's too obvious. But that is clearly my home. I love that place. I love Bader Gymnasium and all the people and the teams and the history that comes with it. So I won't say that. I gotta say Wharton Fieldhouse. I gotta our local school.
I mean, yeah,
and it's a cathedral. The place is huge, and and I say huge, but man, on a big night they'll fill it. That place will fill up, and it's amazing.
When I was there for the opening covers, the super sectional between Bradley and was it O'Fallon, I think, or not Bradley, Moline and O'Fallon.
Yep. A few years before that, there was a Moline United Township sectional championship that was played there, and it was just the atmosphere was just incredible. Yeah.
What'd you put in there, Vincent? 7,300 is the seating capacity there.
You have the book in front of you.
7,250.
7,250
is what you had in there. That's a ton of people.
It's a metric ton of people. There's a lot of popcorn to be made.
Yeah. It's a bit of this is maybe a bit of a homer pick, but it was voted at one point the best gym on Twitter or on X.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Ottawa High School won the popular vote a few years ago.
Which, you know what? I got to give him some props on that because, like, on Twitter, and this is why I said, like, I'm never going to do a popular vote on any of this because, like, you've got schools like New Trier or Joliet that got like 4,000 kids going to them, and it's like it'd be really easy to like backload that through just a tweet by the school or the coaches.
Yeah. But Ottawa High School ended up winning that a few years ago, and I've seen a lot of high school games there growing up in Ottawa. They were, kind of a rival with Marquette, but not really because it was, 2 different size schools. But I had a lot of friends that went there, and so I've been to a lot of games there. I saw Sean Livingston for Peoria High School play there in a regional championship game on their way to a state championship, and then later he's on his way to the NBA. So that was a cool memory that I have there. But that's a cool old school gym, and like I said, I love the entrance, the ticket window, the architecture when you walk in is just it's amazing. All right, for my 3rd gym, I'm actually going to go to a gym I've never been to, but that I want to go to. I love the look of Taylorville High School. So they have like the team photo, the huge team photo at center court, like, and just the banners hanging and the lighting and the windows. That place is really cool looking.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad I made it there during the Christmas tournament, and I saw a night game, which was really cool when the home team was there. And then I went back the next morning just to shoot a little bit. And when the sun is out, or at least it was overcast, but you could see the windows. It just adds a second level to the development of the gym. And so sometimes some of these gyms like VAZ, which is at Bloom Township, they're really cool to see during the day. And most of us, we see basketball at night. So it's
Well, Monticello is like that, right? Monticello is a new
Monticello's
gym with a
absolutely
lot
like
of
that.
windows.
Yep. And I
Yeah.
find it funny that you picked Taylorville and Ottawa Township, because you should have just went with Waukegan, and those could have been your top three, because they're very similar gyms. They are, if you've been to Ottawa, you've kind of been to Taylorville and Waukegan. They're pretty close. I think Waukegan and Taylorville are closer together in looks, but Ottawa is right there.
Yeah, and it's funny because now my son attends high school at Davenport Central, which is George Marshall Gymnasium, which is very similar to all those three as well.
Nice.
A very similar structure. So I guess I'm just meant to be in that sort of gym.
Hey, when you got a style, you got a style,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Getting back, I knew a kid that graduated from Centralia when they played in the old gym, and I saw your pictures of the stained glass, and I was immediately recalled his stories about playing there. He had such reverence for that gym and that history.
It's a cathedral, man. That's nothing short of which is funny considering a church owns the building now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, so we've given our top three. We've talked about a ton of the book, a ton of the gyms in the book, but there's a lot more to uncover in this book. Before we let you go, Vincent, any gyms in here that we haven't talked about that that you learned that you didn't know existed before this book, or that you just are glad you got to spotlight, or what's something we haven't talked about yet?
So I think the two gyms that I didn't really talk about until the book came out were Brussels, for obvious reasons, because it was just, so many people never heard of that one. And then the other one was, it's kind of Heron, but it's Culp High, is what we call it. So it's Heron High School at Culp. And it was, it's a little bit of a history lesson, which goes back to the time when there were segregated high schools in Southern Illinois. And I found out about this because Heron has a picture hanging up in their gym celebrating the 1941 state champs for it was essentially like I know I'm going to mess it up, but it was like the Interscholastic, Colored Schools of Southern Illinois Association or something like that was the conference. And so they played at Huff Gym right before the actual state finals for basketball. So they played their state final there, and Heron won in 1941. And it's a really interesting idea, or a really interesting story when it was a maintenance garage for the city of Culp now, or the village of Culp. And it was just torn down in September, unfortunately, but it was in really bad shape too. But just to see this school and the condition, even if it was in good condition and brand new, how small it was, and just knowing the little bit of this history. And then, I think I've tied it in a little bit with DeCoins High School because they've named their gym after Durrell Anders, who was a African-American kid who played there in the 80s and had passed away during his senior season with spinal meningitis. And I find the duality of everything people will say about Southern Illinois and, the racism and all sorts of politics and stuff that goes on. And yet here it is, a generation removed from when DeCoin had a segregated school itself named Lincoln. Here they are naming a gym after this African-American kid who didn't go on to be an NBA player, didn't go on to win them a state title. Usually when you get a gym named after you, it's because you're a school superintendent, winning head coach for as an old white guy, I'm going to say this, you're usually an old white guy. So I think that duality between Culp and DeCoin, and actually, how close they are, and Heron, celebrating them, it says a lot about, all of us could just get out a little bit more and, see some basketball and maybe talk to the people in the bleachers next to us. Might be a better place.
Yeah. Listen, I give you a ton of credit because I remember, direct messaging you back and forth early on saying, hey, I have some photos, or I can get some high-res photos of, Marquette and Ottawa's gym, and you said, no, I'm going to go do it myself.
Yeah.
And I give you a ton of credit because you put in the miles and put in the ferry rides to get to Brussels and everything.
I'm sitting in the car that put in all those miles too. It's kind of funny. So
yeah. But no, I just give you a ton of credit for getting out there and meeting people, learning about not just the building, but the people that are inside the building and the stories that these gyms have told over the years. And I think it's a history lesson as much as it is a celebration of, these high schools around the state, big and small and everything in between. Like you said, from those Southern Illinois tip all the way up to Chicagoland and the suburbs and everywhere. It's cool. I'm sure it's been a fun adventure for you, and it's fun for us to now kind of follow along with it. So
enjoy. And, I hope everybody else that gets it, get a copy. Tell me what your favorite gym is. Like, that. Send me a tweet, send me an Instagram message, let me know. 'Cause I think everybody's got a little bit of a different thing that they find interesting, and I just love sharing. It's my love letter to the state. I'm one of those people who get mad when somebody says, "Oh, I'm moving to Texas," or "I'm moving to Indiana," and I'm like, we live in a great state. Like, just be happy. It's, everything's not always going to be perfect. Every gym's not always, the best, but, I think after COVID, we all learned that, like, we miss this a lot. And so this book is kind of a, it's a love letter to Illinois. It's a love letter to high school sports and community.
Yep. Mitch, anything else for Vincent?
No, just a quick plug, Vincent. Where can they find the book? I know the link might be a little bit, is it shortened now, I guess? But where can the people find the book?
Illustriousgyms.com. It's got its own website.
Easy enough.
Yeah, I did that about a year ago. I was like, I need it standalone. So, illustriousgyms.com. You could usually find fun stuff tagged under hashtag illustriousgyms. So, yeah. And I'm on all the socials for the most part.
There you go. Yeah, definitely check it out. Illustrious Gyms, the best high school basketball gyms in Illinois, by Vincent Johnson. So, Vincent, as a high school football podcast, can we maybe hope for the original idea coming to fruition with a high school football version of this? Because that's where it all started, right? So I gotta ask.
It is. You're not the only person that's. We'll see. Okay. Maybe it'll be a smaller book, or maybe I'll just put out like a little mini magazine or something like that. But we'll see. It's. Look, I got some pictures of some cool old stadiums still that, like I said, it was in the works at one point. So it wouldn't be that hard to pick it back up. And it's not like I'm not driving around the state right now.
There you go. And it doesn't always have to be a stadium. I mean, Mitch and I, one of our favorites is Stockton. It's just it's a city park, and they, they throw up some wiring around it, and that's where they line up, and that's a beautiful place to watch a football game. So anyway, that's a whole other podcast for a whole nother day.
This was a long one too. So God bless everybody who stayed all the way through this one and had to look at me and not pictures of the gyms.
Yeah. Well, now they can go out and look at pictures of the gym when they buy the book. So, Vincent, thanks so much for jumping in. Thanks, keep in touch, and we'll bring you in to talk some high school football again sometime, too.
And I expect to see you guys out at a basketball game when I'm touring the Quad Cities or something like that. So
let us know. Definitely.
Nick, only seen you guys at football games.
There you go. All right, there you go. All right, well, thanks a lot, Vincent. We appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who listens, who follows along. Join us next week for our Best in the West, our awards episode. That's coming up. We'll talk to you then. That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.